Islam, and I'm proud to have witnessed it up close with my family, is a religion that has some great similarities to Christianity. As someone who's spoken to the wisdom of the book, of the word, so beautifully, can you help us understand how we need to treat religion more seriously, but not realistically, more seriously?
Well, with Islam and Christianity, say, I mean, obviously we're embroiled in a conflict between those two systems of belief, but maybe we could look at the commonalities and see how we could progress from there. It's a reasonable negotiating strategy, let's say. Well, what's importantly similar between, say, Judaism, Islam, and Christianity? Well, the first thing is that that's all people of the book. Yeah. That's a big deal, because what that means is that all three of those cultures have decided in some mysterious manner that a book should be at the center of things. And so they've all decided also, because that's what that implies, that the word should be at the center of things. Now, each religion differs in their interpretation of that, and that causes problems and has advantages as well. But that's a major commonality. It's a stunning commonality, and it's quite the mystery that that's occurred. And I think when Islam burst onto the scene, it unified a diverse range of fractionated tribes under the power of the word in a book. Well, that's a remarkable thing, and so we should attend to that and try to figure out what that means, that we're all guided by the word, also the written word. And then we should also be attendant to the potential dangers of that, because in some sense the printed word is also a frozen document, although a book can be very sophisticated and subtle, and sacred books tend to be exactly that. And then, of course, in Islam you also have some degree of veneration for the figure of Jesus Christ. Now the details of that matter, let's say, and the fact that there is disagreement about his precise stature, let's say, that's not trivial, but the agreement that there's something of massive significance there, or profound significance, is also not trivial. And so that's something for everyone to discuss. And when we were speaking earlier this morning, you mentioned the communitarian emphasis in Islam, and I'd like to address that too, and the feeling, and perhaps well-founded, of many people in the Islamic world, that the Western world, with its stress on individuality, doesn't pay enough attention to the sacrality of the community. And that is a criticism very much worth attending to. By the same token, you might say that if you want to serve the community best, even if you put it in the highest place, let's say, because something has to be in the highest place, you're still faced with the necessity of the veneration of the individual, because a community is a living thing, and the circumstances that communities find themselves in across time change. And so there has to be a living element of the community, and that can't be the past, because the past is dead. That has to be the living individual. And so to serve your community properly, you have to be a very well-developed and courageous individual, even if you feel that should be subordinated to the broader interests of the community at large, which I think is an appropriate way of looking at things. And what a privilege, right? You want to do something that matters with your life. Well, could you be useful to your community? Well, that would be a good thing. That might, improve your view of yourself with all of your faults. And so all of those things are massive commonalities. And the fact that there are three different communities of the book, you say, well, that's a problem because of disunity, and how can they all be right? It's like, well, they can no more be all right or all wrong than the members of a family living under the same roof. They're different. Well, what's the advantage in the diversity? The disadvantage is the disunity and the potential for conflict, but the advantage in the diversity is, well, different traditions are going to generate different takes on the world. And like, if your life is perfect and couldn't possibly be improved, and the same is true of your family and your community, then you don't need to listen to anyone's opinion. But if you're not where you should be or would like to be, and neither is your family or your community, it might be that people you disagree with and who think differently than you have something to say to you, because you're already acting out what you think and it isn't working. So where would you look? And I think that's partly why that injunction exists, to love your enemy. So what does that mean exactly? Well, first of all, it would be better not to have enemies unless you want them. You know, because they're a convenient place to put evil, let's say, and then you don't have to deal with it except to hate them. But you really want enemies? And wouldn't it be better to bring people on board so they could be contributing to the solution of all the catastrophic problems that we face? And so, I try when I'm being interviewed by someone, say, who's hostile to me, and I don't always manage this, to remember that I don't need an enemy at all. Really, I don't. And to bring people on board, wouldn't that be better? Yeah. Well, unless you want misery and pain and suffering and war. And, you know, there's a part of all of us that absolutely wants that. Absolutely wants to see everything burn. You know, consciousness is so unbearable in its essence that maybe it should not exist at all. That's the motif of Goethe's Mephistopheles, right? Satan himself. And, you know, it's a non-trivial proposition, and we all wrestle with it. Wouldn't it just be better to have nothing? Why? Well, the absence of pain. And, you know, the problem is when that proposition is put into action, everything that makes you object to life gets worse. So, it's not a solution.